At this point, it's lazy and sloppy and hackneyed. To be in a club where, I'm walking down the hall at the comedy club, at the Comedy Store, and, in one room, someone's doing their bit about trans people, and then I get down the hall and there's someone on stage going, well, I guess I got to do my bit about trans people. Like, no, you don't. You don't. It's hack now. I mean, you guys got the freedom you wanted. You can now say whatever you want. They're defeated. Their rights have been denied. The policies that you guys encouraged with your stupid material are now policy. And now, half the people under the umbrella of anti-woke, we've lost a tremendous amount of democratic-leaning ideas and movements. So whether they knew it or not, that's what they were spearheading. So now it's reality, and you want to still keep kicking them?
I don't know that the comedians have had that much power.
Are you out of your mind?
No, I'm being serious.
Joe Ray. I'm not gonna.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You can't separate. Like, if the movement is like, we're being censored. No, you're not. You're not. There's no constitutional censorship issue with your free speech. You say things, and in a democratic show of an environment, like Twitter or whatever, there's cultural pushback. To frame it as some sort of free speech problem was a misdirect. Why does it have to be the same four things? It's like they talk about the same shit, and I don't know a better definition of hack.
To say this man is going on a legendary podcast run to promote his new comedy special is actually insulting, because Marc Maron has been in the game for years.
It's just straight up about representation in marginalized communities, vulnerable people, and it's like we don't have to break it all down, but and I know it was never just about the words, but ultimately these guys were marks for the right-wing propaganda machine and absorbed by their agenda and spearheaded what was in their eyes, I talk about in the special, this ability to say words they wanted to say, but they used anti-woke to dismantle all progressive policy for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's partially on them, and I can't separate it. Whether they were willing collaborators or just grifting for themselves. I mean, it's like them, And now you have comics. The other shift too with the right wing political comics is that there's a blurring of the line of comic and commentator or influencer. The right wing has opened up the sort of expanded the minds of fairly shallow people into believing that they can debate, that they have a point of view, and that it's based in this very slippery slope of evolving bullshit that gets them worked up.
Because, as he discussed with the Majority Report's Sam Cedar, he's seen how political comedy has not only evolved, but in turn, its mainstreamness within the right wing.
They thought that their fight was really about free speech, which wasn't on a constitutional basis. So the entire premise of we're being denied our free speech was based in the active kind of movement of democracy to move forward.
When you say anti-woke comics, either you can say specific names, or what do you think of, or who do you think of, or what are you imagining?
There's the wormy way to handle it, like Bill Maher, where you're like, hey, I'm as liberal as the next guy, but, the liberals have gone too far with this thing. People are getting, canceled or whatever. But those were corporate decisions based on, I think a misread of the public sentiment, in honoring, which it was good that they did, the kind of fragility of minority communities, based in ethnicity or gender, sexual gender stuff. Rogan and Hinchcliffe and, just a lot of these people just locked into this anti-woke thing. But now, the government, which is for all practical, good intents and purposes, is an authoritarian government, and we have a fairly dominant fascistic culture. Yeah. So they're using the same language, which is anti-woke, to dismantle all progressive institutions. And, whether you like it or not, or whether that's not what you signed up for, you tied yourself to that horse. But this is the reality, is that, democracy was squashed because of the policy now of using anti-woke to dismantle the liberal democratic state is something you didn't shut up about.
Vulture's Catherine Van Arendonk wrote, his impression of Theo Von interviewing Hitler gets much of its punch from sounding alarmingly plausible, and it allows Maron to shade in some of his favorite themes on the possibilities and failures of comedians when standing up to authoritarian politics. The anti-woke flank of the new fascism is being driven almost exclusively by comics, my peers. Whether or not they are self-serving or true believers in the new fascism is unimportant. They are of the movement. Whether they see themselves as acolytes or just comics does not matter. Whether they are driven by the idea that what they are fighting for is a free speech issue, or whether they are truly morally bankrupt racists does not matter. They are part of the public face of a fascistic political movement that seeks to destroy the democratic idea. He would add, when comedians with podcasts have shameless, self-proclaimed white supremacists and fascists on their show to joke around like they're just entertainers or even just politicians, all it does is humanize and normalize fascism. When someone uses their platform for that reason, they are facilitating anti-American sentiment and promoting violent autocracy. In another portion, he types, it may be all self-serving. Greedy influencers and comics and public personalities and certainly tech companies want to align themselves with an unapologetic right-wing movement that has no concerns for regulation or law or justice or decency or democracy to increase their earnings and put them in the seat of power. Fascism is good for business if you toe the line. Popular podcasts became tribal and divisive years ago. Now they may be in the position to become part of the media oligarchy under the new anti-democratic government. W. Kamau Bell had another take on his Substack. I'm old enough to remember the East Coast versus West Coast rappers beef of the 90s. This feels like that. But instead of the beef being about who's more gangster, the fascistic comedians versus non-fascist comedians beef is about who is more democratic. He'd later print, Maron is the perfect person to take on the Trump medians and the entire Rogan sphere. No one can question Marc's comedy bona fides. Maron is also perfect for the job of taking these Trump medians to task because they can't accuse him of being woke. Maron's act has always been created in the space of the comedy club, where toes are not always carefully considered before they are stepped on. Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/tytsports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.